At Farmers Insurance, we know the sound of a perfect hot air balloon landing. And a less than perfect one. Seen it, covered it. Click for more.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
The following is a Podcast One Minnesota production.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
If it's made in Minnesota, who's making it and how?
Yeah, you got that right.
It's the Makers of Minnesota, focusing on the products and services uniquely made in Minnesota, and conversations with the makers, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Minnesota about how they conceived of their products and how they brought them to market. With Stephanie Hansen, it's the Makers of Minnesota.
Hi, this is Stephanie Hansen, and you're listening to The Makers of Minnesota. This is episode 55. We are very excited to be with Rosie Arntz from Cannon River Winery, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You bet. Rosie, I have to tell you, I'm just going to start out. I have all these preconceived notions about Minnesota wine.
Yes, everyone does.
Yeah, I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one.
We've got a very good stereotype about not being a good wine.
Yeah, and so Cannon River Winery, my just understanding of you, and I could be wrong, is that you guys were one of the original wineries in Minnesota that started making Minnesota wines.
Yep.
And over time, my understanding is you've worked on cultivating different grapes with the University of Minnesota.
Correct.
And so are we 30 years into this?
Not 30. Oh, as far as grapes, you mean?
Yeah, as far as making wine.
But we have not. We've been around for about 14 years, going on our 14th year. So we've been working with the University of Minnesota, and we now have 13 different grapes in our vineyard that we grow.
It takes a long time, doesn't it, to kind of get the grapes to maturity so that you can actually make wine with them?
Yeah. Right now we have 9,000 vines on 20 acres, and we just planted another 8,000 just this spring. And I'm so excited to be out at the vineyard tomorrow because we're doing a moon harvest dinner, which is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So when I was out there in April, they were probably 2 inches, and now they're about 2-3 feet.
Tell
really
me about.
exciting.
Okay, so how did you come to be at the winery as the wholesale director?
Oh boy, this is a crazy story. But I my background is in pharmacy. Mm-hmm. And in human resource. And I actually went out. I know.
Both of which you might need some experience with wine. I don't know.
Exactly. And so I actually went out there 2.5 years ago and did their harvest. And I was out there harvesting, and I thought harvesting is just picking the grapes. It's one of their harvest experience that we have out there. Picked the grapes and was like, why am I not working here? So I found the GM and said, I need a job here. So I started working there part-time just as a server in the
event center.
Event center. And they just asked me if I would like to climb on board and be a wholesale person. And I'm like, I know nothing about sales, but it's turned out to be great. And it's just a super job, and it's worked out great for me. So I quit my pharmacy job, and here I am.
Okay, so you said 13 varieties of grapes. What does that translate to into how many types of wine?
Well, it can be, a majority of things. Right now, we have 17 different wines that we have in stock.
Okay.
And then we also, in the winter, we make the Winter Carnival wines for St. Paul. So we're the official wines for the Winter Carnival.
That's
we
cool.
Make the Vulcans and also the Boreas.
Yep.
And so those go to the Winter Carnival during the Winter Carnival. And then we also sell those to the liquor stores. But once they're gone, they're gone. And then we also make a wine that is the Bootleggers. And it's our version of a port.
Okay.
And then, again, once that's gone, it's gone, and then it comes back next year. So we're just in the process of bottling that one here shortly. So Sam will be bottling that in the next couple of weeks. And then it'll come out for the holidays. And then, like I said, once it's gone, it's gone. So, but right now, we do have 17 different wines that we make that are in stock right now.
And Sam is the winemaker that we
Sam
did
Jennings is our winemaker. Yep, he is our little mad scientist. He did a stint with Chateau Michel in Washington State. And then he's also got an associate winemaker that assists him, and that's Mike. And Mike is also from Washington State. So we're really lucky to have these two here that know everything about wine, and they're crazy. Everything that they think about is wine, and to just go back into his office and it makes me laugh because every time I walk in there, I'm like, there's beakers and there's, because they're always trying to concoct something.
Yeah.
And one of Sam's biggest things, which I wish that he was here today, unfortunately he's sick, but one of the things that I loved about him is that he felt like, everything was done with the Merlots and the Chardonnays. And so he really wants to experiment with the grapes that Minnesota has to offer.
Well, let's talk about that because at the state fair this year at Minnesota Wine Country, I was able to taste one of your wines. And I enjoyed it. And I was talking to actually Leslie Miller from Amuse, who's done a lot of wine consulting for Minnesota wine growers. And I was just like, oh, this red is really good. She goes, you seem so surprised. I'm like, yes, I am surprised, to be honest. I'm surprised that, and I don't know why, but that we can grow good tasting wine in such a cold climate. Is that a barrier that you have to selling the wine?
No, I think the barrier is that the wine, like originally the grapes, when they first grow, they're going to be bitter. And so there's that little bitterness to them. And so people aren't used to that. Like the Marquette grape, it's going to be a more bitter grape than a Merlot
right.
or, what do I want to say, a Cab. And so it's all a matter of getting used to it and just enjoying it for what it is and not thinking that it is a French wine or it's a Minnesota wine and we're proud of it.
So meeting you where you're at
Yep.
as a wine versus trying to create something that you're
Right.
not, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of what percentage? You guys have a huge event center there. You do weddings. It's a very beautiful space. What percentage of the business is events versus literal wine sales? Do you know?
We're actually let's see, where are we at? 2017. So 2014 is when we actually created the event center.
Okay.
So we're just really starting to take a roll with all of the events and stuff. And so we do have a lot of weddings. Some of the weddings will take place out at the vineyard, and then they'll come back to the event center and have their reception, or sometimes they just have the reception there.
So the event center is really ancillary to the winemaking. I sort of thought it was the other way around.
Yep.
So tell me, you brought, you're wearing a really cute t-shirt that says Feisty Bitch, which I love. And you had contacted me because you guys have developed some kind of sassier wines down there.
Yep.
Tell me about Feisty Bitch in particular and that brand.
Okay. Well, so we've got a new owner, and his name is Ron Stoll. He's from Egan, and he came on board last August. And
he'd bought it from the family that had
he
it
bought
before.
it from the Maloney family.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so he's sat back and observed all of his staff and decided that we are a bunch of feisty bitches.
That's funny.
So we named a wine. It was a group effort about what we were going to name our next wine, because every year we like to come out with a different wine. And he decided to put a little edge on it. And so we did. And we weren't quite sure how it was going to turn out or what it was going to be. And one of the things was that we also have some grandma wines that were from the previous owners. But we retired those grandma wines because they're not selling the way we would like them to. And so we retired the grandmas and we brought in the feisties.
So tell me what a grandma wine is in your estimation.
The Lorraine's White, I love. It's really a good, nice Riesling. So there are some Riesling grapes in it, and then Minnesota. And then we have Go-Go Red, which is our number one selling wine.
It is.
Number one selling wine,
Okay.
hands down.
Why do you think?
It's kind of like it's a table red.
Sure.
So you can have it with spaghetti or you can have it with Mexican food. It's going to tame down that spice. And it's a Sabravois grape, if I said that right. They'd probably be proud of me if I did, because it's a tough one. But it's just like a Lambrusco, kind of like a Lambrusco.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's
Little
real
sweeter.
jammy.
Yep.
And it smells real earthy. But it's just our number one wine. People
Okay,
just
Go-Go
love
Red.
Go-Go Red. I did not bring you Go-Go Red.
That's okay. I'm looking at your. So Feisty Bitch is it pink?
That's the rosé.
Okay. And there is a rosé,
We have
a white,
rosé,
and a red.
a red, and a white. Exactly. And the red is very easy. There's not a lot of tannins in it. It's a real easy drink. The nice thing that I like about the red is that you can chill it.
Mm-hmm.
and it changes the whole dynamics of that wine.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And what is the retail price point of it?
It is $15.99.
Okay.
$16.99.
So when you are going to sell that line to a local store, how do you sell it? What is your presentation?
You have to be really careful about each store because, again, there's some stores that honestly have not taken it because they don't like the name. Even though they have Fat Bastard and they have Sweet Bitch and they had Menage a Trois wines in there, they still don't like it. They think that it's derogatory towards women.
Uh-huh.
And if I showed you the feisty red, you would not think that it's derogatory towards women.
Right.
Because it's got a dog on it. But with the lips and the legs, because the white has legs on it,
Uh-huh.
they think that it's derogatory towards women.
Oh, that's interesting.
Even though that's not even the focus on that wine at all.
Sure.
It was just to have a fun wine, to put a little edge on it. And so when I go in, I usually, and this was a great experiment because I was getting turned down with a lot of stores. And so I was doing a tasting with a coffee shop that I have. And so I kept it in the brown bottle, or I kept it in the brown bag.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a tasting with it. And everybody was like, oh my God, I love it, I love it, I love it. And then I said, okay, you're ready for me to reveal what it looks like? And then when I revealed it, they were like, oh. So it's really funny how all of a sudden, things could change. But they loved it. They all bought it. So it was great. So we got it into the liquor store across the street that actually we were using his liquor store to have this tasting. So
it seems by just looking at the label, it's a very book clubby kind of wine.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think you would be able to pull that
it's
out
a
at
fun
book club.
wine.
What percentage of, in your mind, I'm going to go make a purchase, right? And I'm standing at the liquor store aisle. How much is the label impacting my purchase?
If it's a man, it's huge.
Really? There's a difference between a man and a
Huge.
woman?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And it's really interesting just to show these labels to men, which ones they like. They all love the lips.
Yep.
Or they love the dog. It's so bizarre. The women, they're all across the board.
Okay.
And so it's really interesting.
So when you're putting the labels together and working on the marketing presentation, if it's a wine that you think would appeal more to a man, do they spend more time on the label versus?
Well, we're learning this now,
Uh-huh.
and I'm learning this just from my husband alone. He's a guy who goes in and he makes his purchase off of the label only. He's like, I don't know what this tastes like, but you want to try it? Let's eat. And it's like, okay. So I mean,
Funny,
it's, yeah.
I think I tend to make my purchase based more on the grape. Or is it red, pink, or white, and what I'm eating, kind of more.
I make mine on what I'm eating.
Yeah, but that's so funny too because I would probably not drink rosé with Mexican food. I probably wouldn't drink red with Mexican food. But you mentioned that,
Yep.
And sometimes just wine can be so snobby, and it needs to be broken down into.
That's what we wanted to do
what
with
do you
this
like?
particular wine right now was to just break down that barrier. Drink the wine you like right now.
Has the millennial market embraced Minnesota wines?
Yes, very much so.
And tell me about that.
It's really cool, too, to
that's
see.
Supposedly the largest growing segment of wine drinking.
They're very, first of all, there's no loyalty towards them. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that they're very local oriented. They love local.
Okay.
And so it's really cool to see that from them alone. And I have a son who's 32. And so to just see him, trying different product and just getting his take on things is really interesting.
Is he a snob about local wine? Will he be more likely to try it than...
He will definitely try it because of his mom.
Sure. So if you were people listening to this podcast that have these preconceived notions about Minnesota wine, how would you work your way around that, or what would you say they should be looking for or to try?
When I'm always in a tasting and somebody says, ooh, Minnesota, I say, what do you have to lose? You just try it.
Yeah.
And then when they try it, because I did this tasting in Minneapolis, and I had this group of women that were like, ooh, we're wine snobs. And I said, that's fine, but try it. I said, you have nothing to lose. If you don't like it, you spit it out, you get rid of it, and you move on.
Right.
And they tried it and were like, wow, this is really good. I said, yes, don't be afraid to try it.
What wine are you the most proud of?
I love so I brought you the classic white because I think you're going to love it. I love the classic white. It's a throwback. So Sam, again, we had this wine years ago, and then we stopped making it. And so he had some grapes that he just decided to throw together, and so he made this wine, and it's so good. I love it.
What would you liken it to? The Cannon River Classic White.
I like it's a little dry. It's not too dry.
Mm-hmm.
I like a drier wine. So the other
What
one
is
that
when someone says they like a drier wine? What do they mean by that?
it's kind of it's crisp and it's buttery, and it's a little bit of oak.
And so not sweet necessarily?
Not sweet.
Okay.
Yep. And so one of the things that I dropped off a bottle for you and the other Stephanie, and it was our family reserves. And our family reserves are awesome.
She must have gotten it.
They are they are phenomenal. I really think that they are so good. They're one of our best wines, and I love them. And one of the other things that Sam just created was it's called Gunflint Gris.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a Gunflint Red that we make for the Gunflint Trail.
Okay.
But we also have a Gunflint Gris, which he just bottled. We've just bottled it about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it's a Frontenac Gris grape. It's only a Frontenac Gris grape, but I love this wine because it's got the essence of brandy. So it does not have brandy in it at all, but it's just how he combined an oak and a stainless barrel, and it's phenomenal. Huh. It's really, like when you smell it, you smell the essence of brandy, and then when you taste it, and it kind of gives you the heat of a hard alcohol, but there's no hard alcohol in it at all. And I just love it.
I like that.
It's a really fun wine right now.
At Farmers Insurance, we know the sound of a perfect hot air balloon landing. And a less than perfect one. Seen it, covered it. Click for more.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
What is where is somewhere that carries most of the SKUs that you have besides the winery itself? Is there a local store that you...
There's a lot of local stores that carry... there's Rosemont Cub carries almost every wine that we make.
Oh, nice.
Cameron Liquors in Ember Grove carries every wine that we make. I mean,
Yep.
right down to the bootleg. So there's a lot of stores that carry. We're in 169 stores.
Okay. And is your role, like, how much sampling do you go out and do? Is
I
that a
do
big
a
part of
lot.
your job?
Yeah.
And are people, this is just like, when someone is sampling wine at a liquor store, I've always wondered, are there people that just stand there to drink and keep getting samples and get weird?
Yes.
Oh, I thought there
are.
might be.
There are.
I've seen that sometimes. It's like, oh, and then
And you just try to make conversation with them.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, continue pouring because you have to, because, there's a limit. There's a limit. You just can't. I mean, by the time you go through, if I have 7 bottles, and you do a 1 ounce pours.
Yeah.
So
if someone's really hard up.
They've had 2 good glasses of wine, really.
Are people nice when you're doing samples, or do you ever get people that are just rude?
I've had one person that got rude with me. I think he was an ex-cop, is what I think he was, because I said, "Would you like to try some samples?" He's like, "No, people are on the road. You're sending people home on the road with that." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." But
yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, it really was, because that was really the only time that had ever happened to me.
Yeah, and a 1 ounce sample for most people, you're not even gonna feel an ounce of anything.
But for the most part, everybody, depending on the day, Saturdays are really interesting because Saturdays people linger through the liquor stores.
Yep.
On Fridays, they're in and out and they want to go.
Yeah, and has Sunday sales helped you?
I don't know. I don't think that we've seen the actual numbers for the Sunday sales. I mean, we've always, because we were a bottle shop at the winery, we were always able to sell.
Oh, that's interesting.
But at liquor stores, I don't know if we've seen the sales yet. It's interesting to sit back and talk to the liquor stores, because I think that people that are close, that are located to water, they're doing great sales on Sundays, because now the people that were on the lake don't have to go anywhere. They can just get it right there.
Yep.
But I think for the most part, anybody else, it's business as usual. Maybe their business has shifted from Saturday to Sunday and from Monday to Sunday. So it really is just equaling out their whole total week.
Do you have restaurants that are carrying your wines, and is that an area that you're responsible for developing?
Yeah, we do.
And what's the best way for you to do that? Is it to have like local wine dinners, or?
Well, right now we are in about 17 different restaurants. So we try to work with restaurants so that we can, it's a totally different beast because you can't always catch the bar manager or the manager of the restaurant, the GM of the restaurant, and try to sit down and do a meal. But it would be awesome if we could just do like a winemaker's dinner, but that doesn't always happen.
Yep.
So they're their own beast. Like I said, they bring the wine in and boom, they're, sometimes you don't ever see them again. You just drop the wine and that's it. But we're in this new place in Egan, which I'm excited about because it's called Union 32.
Okay.
And they are 100% local. So I don't know if you've heard of them or not. They're 100% local. So they're a brewery and they make 2 barrels of their own beer.
Yep.
And then everything else is Minnesota.
Oh, neat.
So they have a credit card and you go up and you can do your own pours. And so we're in that restaurant right now. We have 3 of our wines in there. In fact, she just ordered another one because it was so successful at the fair. So she just picked up another wine, which is really cool. But they want to possibly order cakes from us, which is really nice so that they can start pouring wine that way too. Yeah.
So tell me, Union 32, is that the name of it?
Yeah.
And you put a credit card in and then you can get your own, pay by the ounce or something like that?
They card you and then they give you a card. And then every time you go up to the wall, and it's really like a wall of fame. I'll show you a picture of it. And they've got 36 different tap beers. So if you don't want to go to, Surly's, and not that you don't, but if you have guests in town and you want to let them try all of the local brews, that's a great place to take them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
Yeah,
and that's
it's really
Egan.
cool. Huh. Yeah, and they've got pretty decent food. It's I think it's going to be a huge hit once the Vikings training camp comes over because it's located near there.
Yep.
And it's just a cool concept. It's something that they're the first ones in Minnesota that are doing it, and it was actually comes from the West. So you can, it's just kind of cool because, like I said, you just put your credit card in. You can pour however what you want, 2 ounces, 32 ounces of any beer that you want.
Cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
And then you can do beer flights and
and tasting and flights is always. It's fun to do wine tastings and flights because you really can pick up on the nuances from the samples or the flight. Versus if you're, ordering a glass, drinking 5 ounces, and then you're ordering another glass. Like having that tasting experience side by side is really
so nice because, and especially if it's not something that you don't like,
what
5 ounces.
If people are listening, what do you want them to know about Minnesota wines before we wrap up here? Because they're probably snobs like me.
I want you to say, try it. Just drink it. Give it a whirl. See what it's about because it really is good wine, people. And we have 75 wineries right now in Minnesota.
Really? There's that many?
Which is amazing.
And you guys do a lot of work together, I know, collaborating and
we do
helping
a lot
support each other.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal to see what's out there. I mean, you go to Four Daughters and they're doing like loon juice. I mean, good for them, It's cool to just see that there's all of this going on. And Cannon has been around for going on 14 years, and we really produce some really good wines. I mean, go to Mancini's, have the West 7th, drink the Mancini's Levy Red. You'll be so happy that you do.
People. That's a good tip to know. I was just at Mancini's last weekend. You guys have a great bike trail down there too. And do you have? I'm seeming to think that there's a way that you can go to different wineries and ride your bike.
In fact, there's you can start at us, and then you can ride all the way to Red Wing. And so there's a couple of wineries down there as well. And
that's fun because that's not that far. I've done it. It's like a 30, maybe 40 miles.
I think it's
tops.
40 miles round trip is what the whole thing is. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was really fun.
It's like
it's
not
flat
like it's uphill both
trail.
ways. It's flat.
Yeah, it is a super great trail.
In fact, I just had some friends that were in Red Wing. They rode up to Cannon. Didn't even know that they were going to be there, which was so awesome. It was their anniversary. So I served them wine, and then they were on their way back to Red Wing. So it was really fun. They took a couple of bottles and a corkscrew and said, "We're going to make another stop in Welch." And I said, "Cool."
Oh,
so,
that's fun. Yeah.
I know, yeah.
That is really fun.
Yeah.
Rosie, thank you for being with me today
Yeah,
and
thanks
talking
for
about
having
Minnesota
me.
wines. Why don't you throw out a couple of names just so the people listening to the podcast, if they do want to try something We've talked about the Cannon River Classic White. We've talked about the Feisty Bitch series that comes in white, red, and rosé. We've talked about the fact that you produce the white and the red wines over at Mancini's. We've talked about a family reserve wine
red and white, yeah,
that
really
you can
good.
get at the winery. Anything else that they should be looking for in the liquor store that you're excited about?
Look for Gunflint and look for the sparkling Edelweiss that was at the State Fair this year.
Yeah, that was an interesting. You guys poured that sparkling Edelweiss over cotton
That was
candy.
a huge hit. It was their concoction. We had no idea how it was going to go. It was amazing. In fact, we're probably out of the sparkling Edelweiss until it gets bottled again.
Yeah.
But there are still some liquor stores that carry it. It was really a fun drink. I think that the Minnesota State Fair just needed something, fun.
Yeah, I had a slushie in the Minnesota wine building
country, yeah.
that was so good.
Yeah.
I would have never thought of having a wine slushie, but it was really tasty and super refreshing.
And that's one of the things, too. I mean, if you, like with some of our wines, we make sangrias with them on Sundays. We do a sangria Sunday at the winery or a mimosas. And the sangrias, there's a place, Barley and Vine. They're in Lakeville. They serve our wines. They do a phenomenal job with a sangria.
Yum.
It's so good.
And it's the website is
CannonRiverWinery.com.
And you guys can go there, and they can order wine right online, too,
You can
right?
order wine right online, and you can go to FeistyBitchWine.com for the Feisty Bitch.
And you can find you guys have a lot of events happening for the fall.
Always. Yep. Right
that's
now
cool.
we're going to be doing harvesting. So come out and pick grapes with us. It's one of the funnest things you'll ever do. That's how I ended up where I am
What makes
today.
it so fun? It's just free labor for you guys, right?
Free labor, but you pay. So it's $25 for you to come out, and we'll bus you out to our vineyard, which is just 7 miles south of our tasting room. And then you help us pick grapes for about an hour and a half. And then we feed you lunch, and we feed you every wine that we have.
Oh, that's
and
fun.
It's a blast. And then you get to come back, and then you get to start to see the first process of the destemming of the wines or the grapes. And then we invite you back for the grapes that you actually picked, because there's so many different grapes and every group is a little different. We invite you back to come and taste the first step of the wine that we're making. So it's really fun.
That sounds like a great date.
It's a great date. It's a great girls' day. It's just a fun family event. I think your kids have to be maybe 10 and over, but yeah, it's just it's such a beautiful day out there. When you go out there, you feel like you're in Sonoma.
Oh, that's great.
Fabulous.
All right. Thanks for being here, Rosie.
Thanks.
At Farmers Insurance, we know a roof can withstand a lot. One exception being an airborne car. Seen it, covered it. Click for more.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. An F-16 pilot having hydraulic problems with his aircraft managed to parachute to safety as the plane smashed into a warehouse east of Los Angeles. Fire Captain Fernando Herrera.
That pilot landed in the March Air Force Base area, in the base itself.
Amazingly, there were no serious injuries after the plane hit the building. Alabama executed a man last night for his role in killing 4 people after an argument over a pickup truck. Tennessee executed a man who killed his wife. Reporters couldn't see the execution, but AP correspondent Travis Lawler says
we could hear sounds, including singing, that Mr. Johnson's attorney says was him singing a hymn.
Answering a reporter's question, President Trump said he hopes the U.S. is not on a path to war with Iran. Mr. Trump has dismissed suggestions that any of his advisors are trying to push him into a conflict. I'm Rita Foley.